A very warm good evening, students. Today we will discuss the question answers of the poem Do Not Ask of Me My Love. Okay. Now, firstly, students, I will go in the reverse way. That means first we will discuss the essay type question answers. Okay. Here there is a very interesting question which says, most critics have pointed out in the poem the beloved mean not just a lover but a country and nationalism. With this observation, does the poem read differently? Now, it's very interesting, students, because whenever we write a poem, and probably that's the beauty of poetry. Yes, because poetry, you cannot say a poem just has one meaning. Okay, there are several interpretations to a poem, and probably, students, many a times we interpret a poem in a completely different way from what was in the mind of the writer, okay, the poet. But students, still we cannot say that we are wrong, because in poetry there cannot be something what is called as wrong interpretation or right interpretation. Everybody interprets it in their own way, and everybody is right. So that is the beauty of poem. And in this poem, students, many people say that when he speaks about his beloved, he is speaking about his country, and he's speaking about nationalism. Okay, quite possible, because as you know, students, we have also read poems or heard songs where which was about patriotism, nationalism, where they speak about the nation or the country as a beloved. And it is about loving the country with the same passion, in the same unconditional way one loves their beloved. Okay, so maybe if you look at it like that, what does the poet say? He is telling us, probably, if you look at it, that when they say beloved, it's love for the country and it's about nationalism. Maybe you can see he in the initial paragraph where he is speaking about the beauty of his beloved. He is speaking about the beauty of his country, rather the natural beauty of his country. Okay, and then when he speaks about this illusion that he harbored, he is speaking about extending that love to mankind. Okay, it's not just about loving your country, it's not just about loving the people from your country, it's about extending your love to entire mankind. Because students, every country, people are waging their own battles, they are fighting their own miseries and difficulties. So if you look as that with that feeling of brotherhood, and where you don't restrict it only to people of your country, that can also be a possible explanation. Okay, where at the end, the poet is again saying that he has made a choice, not just to be patriotic, not just to ardently love his own country. He has decided to also look at the problems of the world. So the earlier thinking that he had, that life is only about loving your country, serving your country, enjoying the beauty of your country, doing the best for your country. Yes, instead of that, now his love has a bigger arena. Okay, so he says that he will now look at the problems of the world. So as you know, different countries, like for example, students, we know till date, in the prevailing disparity in the conditions of countries. If in some countries they are so progressive and in every way, be it economic sphere or whether it comes to technology or whatever, they are so progressive. But you will see, students, in some other countries, people, there are so many problems like poverty, okay, which is many a times the root of all problems. Then there is illiteracy, okay, backwardness, okay, malnutrition, disease, okay, and people suffering the vagaries of the weather and nature. So all this, so he is talking about that. Of course, as you know, students, then at one point he speaks about slavery. Now in India, students, maybe we don't have this concept of slavery. But yes, in many countries in the world, slavery still exists. So we cannot imagine when man has, today when we say man has evolved, and still in some parts of the world, we are buying and selling people like cattle. Yes, so the prevalent backwardness, has man really evolved? That is a question we need to ask. Yes, when you cannot love a fellow human being, when you cannot respect a fellow human being, then can we really say that mankind has developed or evolved? Speaking about, then he speaks about disease. Yes, students, the classic cases, the corona. Yes, in present times, despite so much progress in medical science, still we sometimes face with some epidemics, or the recent word pandemics, where mankind is rendered almost helpless, and he becomes a kind of a prey to that disease. So speaking about that, why instead of what you say, pursuing futile things like war and killing and destruction, why don't we work in the direction of developing these medical science, making provisions for fellow human beings to develop and walk shoulder to shoulder with us? Why do we want some people still to remain in those deep pits, okay, and suffer and struggle? Why? Just because it suits our interest. That is a question. And of course, students, the disease, the wounds, the scars that people face, which are still not nurtured, which are still not nursed, and they continue to, the bad state they are. You can see pus oozing from it. So it can be that way also, where he does not want to restrict his love, he does not want to restrict his fidelity only to his country. He wants to, break all those boundaries or barriers of a country and nation, and extend his love to the entire mankind. So that is also a very good interpretation, students. So it is up to us. As again I say, not saying that one interpretation is right. When he says, do not ask of me my love, it can be a lady there. Some have said that he has addressed this poem, when he said, do not ask of me my love, he is referring to his wife, okay, with whom he had a very happy married life, and probably he married the woman he loved. So maybe he is telling his wife that, maybe in the earlier days of their marriage, or prior to their marriage, he could give her so much attention, he could indulge her with all his time and efforts. But now it's not so, my dear. Maybe he's telling her that now I have made a choice in life. Please understand, your students, I wouldn't say, if you look at it, let's not be judgmental there and say that loving yourself or loving your beloved, or serving your own personal interest, many people say it is a kind of selfish thing. I don't believe so. It is your way of looking at things, okay? As I told you, it's about the choice you make, because many a times it is how you perceive it. I gave you all an example of Mahatma Gandhi, and I told you that this was a choice Gandhiji had made. He wanted to serve the larger good, and maybe his personal relations had suffered in the bargain. Like for example, if you see Gautam Buddha, okay, the man, the enlightened one, who gave so many profound religious teachings to the world, okay, but if you look at it, he left his young wife and child behind in his pursuit. So somewhere probably he was not a good husband or a father, if you look at it in that way, okay. So as you know, we are not talking about selfishness or selflessness, we are only talking about the choice one makes in life, okay. But one thing we have to remember, any choice that you make in life, it is accompanied with some responsibilities and duties, and whatever choice we make in life, we have to do complete justice to it, okay. So that is why, students, in the last video also I told you, you cannot do complete justice to both the worlds. One has to suffer, one has to be compromised for the sake of the other. Okay, so that is what the poet is talking about. Next, the next question, and the very interesting one, at the end of the poem, we feel the speaker does not love his beloved less, but the suffering humanity more. Do you agree? Yes, students, because many a times, um, there are people, as I told you all, there are people who have spoken about love being eternal, and of course, students, from personal experiences, people who loved each other so ardently and avidly, after some years, they marry and then they separate. Then what happens? Does love go on dwindling, or like many a times people say that when the problems of life come start entering your life, then love sometimes flies out of the window. So what exactly happens? Or sometimes students, people are not faithful in their love. But here, students, it's none of that. Okay, the poet is telling his beloved that, because initially he's praising her beauty, so maybe a large foundation of his love is based on her beauty. He loves her so much because he finds her very beautiful. So even in the last stanza, he's again stressing on that, stressing on that point. He says that it's not that her beauty has faded. Yes, very possible, because many a time, students, when you love someone in your youth, youth is a time when most people probably look their best. But then with age, you pile in some extra pounds, and maybe your skin has wrinkles, your hair starts graying. Okay, so maybe so, but then he's telling her that it's you are as beautiful. It's not that I feel that your beauty has faded, but he says I am helpless because of the choice I have made. So that is, he clearly tells her, um, less, but he has started loving the suffering humanity more. He has made a choice there. Okay, what is the transformation in the perception of love do you see in the poem? Now, as you can see, students, which we explored in the previous class also, when you speak about personal love and personal relation, your world is a very small one. It comprises of only few people. This is a world which is very rosy, and everything is accessible, and there are few problems in this world, and even if there are, you feel you can remove those problems from your life. But students, when we remove those boundaries, and when he speaks about the love, even the latter, that is loving fellow human beings, not just loving one individual. Okay, so that time, students, there are many challenges that come in your life. This is not something, you can remove those miseries in a matter of few days, but yes, you can make your individual contribution towards it. Okay, because as you know, students, there are many people who decided to live their life for fellow human beings. This is the choice we make. There are people who died for the sake of others, for the sake of their country, for the sake of their clan, okay, or for many other reasons. There are people who live their life serving fellow human beings, trying to bring about their upliftment. Upliftment. In your textbook only, students, we learn about a young boy, Babar Ali, who kind of has dedicated his life for the cause and for the sake of education, okay, and educating the children of his village. So this is a choice Babar Ali has made. So as you can see here, even this question, his perception, that means the earlier love, it was a very rosy world where his beloved, probably there were only two individuals who lived in that world, he and his beloved. So uh, in this world everything was beautiful, and where he felt that life is very simple and straightforward, and things are happening the way he wants them to happen. Yes, and everything is in control, right? And probably his beloved also loves him as much, and he feels he can live his entire life in this way. But then the poem, then as I told you, takes a U-turn. When we read the first stanza, students, or the initial part of the poem, we get an impression. This is one of those run-of-mill poems where the poet is speaking about his deep, passionate love, and he's speaking about the beauty of his beloved, and he's speaking about the changes that she has brought in his life. But then when we come near the third and fourth stanza, we realize he is it is not one of those poems. The poet is giving us a completely different message, okay? He is speaking about the sufferings of mankind and what he wants to do for this suffering mankind. That is why he has to exercise a choice. So it is about that. Okay, next one. What harsh realities of life have drawn the speaker's attention much more than the beauty of his beloved? So as you know, this is a matter of perception. Yes, many a time students, like for example, the beauty of his beloved, it is perfect. Her youth, her radiance, okay, her deep, deep eyes, okay, all these are so beautiful. On the other hand, the sufferings of mankind, it is showing us the ugly picture of life. It is showing us that life is far from perfect. Yes, it is showing us that there are many people who need our help and support. Okay, and there are people who do not even who cannot even satisfy the basic needs of life. There are people who are battling the problems of life. As again I tell you all, some of these problems are man-made. Yes, so like war, okay, and slavery, etc. Then next one. Uh, what does those dark and brutal curses of countless centuries suggest? Now, as you know, whenever war takes place, students, for example, heavens forbid, but in today's, supposing, in the coming months, supposing a war between India and Pakistan takes place, was to happen, okay? Now, it's not just about when a war takes place, it's not just about the soldiers who fight in our borders or are fighting in our Indian army or Pakistani army who are losing their life. When a war takes place, the entire country regresses, goes several decades backward. Yes, and apart from that, there are people in the during the bombings, or if that war takes a real what you say, a dire turn, then there can be bombing, destruction of life, destruction of property. Civilians also suffer, okay, and all the sufferings that war brings in its force. So those are the dark and brutal. Now, as I told you, dark and brutal curses of countless centuries. When the seeds of war are sown, it is not an end. When those seeds of ill feelings are sown, the seeds of resentment are sown, it is not an end. It is just a beginning of even uglier things that are going to happen or that are going to take place. For example, whatever happened between India and Pakistan, it happened way back, several decades ago. If today a war takes place, probably the present generation has absolutely no connection or relation to what happened then. But still, we will have to face all the miseries, okay, for no fault of ours. So that is why those dark and brutal curses of countless centuries. Probably mankind have not learned their lessons. We have seen so many wars. We have seen nations completely vanquished in wars. Yes, and they say if Third World War to take place, 1/3 of mankind will be destroyed. So despite knowing all this, why does war takes place? So that is why dark and brutal. Darkness, students, when he speaks, he is deliberately. Dark is something that is negative, that is bad, that is cruel, because students, when he speaks about his youth, he speaks about the brightness of youth. When he speaks about his beloved's beauty, he speaks about the brightness uh, of her beauty. So compared to that, if you look at um, which he contrasts with the darkness of war. Darkness, something that is negative, that is bad, you know, that can only bring destruction and death. That is dark. So dark and brutal curses of countless centuries. Like as I said earlier, man apparently has not learnt his lessons. Wars are still fought despite knowing that they never have brought about any good. They have only resulted in absolute destruction. Then coming to the one line question answer students. Now the first one, when the speaker realized that what he thought about love was not true, that is when he realized, when he looked at the sufferings of life, okay, or when he looked at the wider world, or when he decided to live his life as a citizen of the world. You can answer it in your own words. Then that's the way I imagine it to be. The speaker's concept of love is naive. Naive students, something that is, where you don't have enough wisdom, experience, or judgment. Yes, many a times the love. Now, love can happen to anyone at any point of their life. But many a times, students, the love of youth is one which is you can say ruled more by passion, and it's more like a blind kind of love. So that is why he speaks about that love as naive. Then the speaker's realization of realities in the sense, the harsh realities of life. The speaker's view of love was just wishful thinking. Okay, now as you know, wishful means, students, many a times when someone tells us about some fact or something, we don't believe it. We believe only something that suits our interest. We don't want to come out of that cocoon, and we are afraid that if we really believe facts and we really try to absorb it, then we will we will be faced with so many problems. Of course, this is a kind of, what you can say, a kind of an illusion, a kind of an idealistic world we want to live in. Yes, where we don't want to look at the realities of life. So that is why, students, it was just wishful thinking, where he says life was perfect, this love has endowed me with so much power and authority that I feel I am ruling my life. Okay, so then he says, no, no, all these are just illusions. This was a misconception I had about love and life. Then the next one, for there are other sorrows in the world than love. Other sorrows refer to the love, that the sorrow which is generated by love. Yes, students, when you say love, love is very wide concept. It's not just romantic love or the positive kind of love. Sometimes negative love, loving yourself, only loving yourself, loving all the pleasures of life, okay, loving only the riches of life, and so much love that for all these things, that it really makes you a negative kind of a person. Then caused by poverty and deprivation, when you are deprived, you don't even have the basic things of life. Yes, there are people who cannot forget living a comfortable. They don't even, they cannot even satisfy their basic needs. So this is one of the, you can see the disparity, the injustice of life, and he feels he must do something about it. Caused by jealousy and envy. Jealousy and envy, students, as you know, when you're jealous of someone, you feel the person has some privileges which you don't have. Both are negative kind of words, but I would say envy is a tad positive, because many a times when you say envy, like for example, when you're jealous of someone, like for example, jealousy is some completely, expecting some harm or something bad to come over the person, but envy can be, students, a kind of a feeling, oh, I wish I had what the person had. So many a times, when someone, your friend is wearing a beautiful dress, you can say, oh, I envy you. You're looking so nice. I envy the dress you're wearing, which is saying things in a positive way, that wish you had an equally good dress. But when you say someone is jealous, it's only an out and out, jealousy is an out and out negative quality. Okay, and next one, you are beautiful still, my love. Here the speaker is expressing his fidelity to his love. That means his faithfulness. Inability, fidelity means faithfulness. Inability to pay the same and divided attention to his love. Yes, as you know now, there is something else that is occupying his time and attention. preoccupation with other issues of life than his love. Yes, students, so preoccupied, that means he feels his priorities have changed. Yes, now the other problems or miseries of life have taken top priority. So he is speaking about that. Okay, for so much for this video, students. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you.